Welcome to Bodacious Tenacity. I'm Jamie Seaton. In this podcast, we're focusing on the intersection of vulnerability and grit, where people do things they're afraid to do. Having done many things in my own life that actually terrified me, I want to explore the idea that bravery is not a fearless state of being, but a deliberate choice to proceed while trembling. This redefines the narrative of courage, shifting the focus from overcoming fear to the act of persisting through it. In true meta fashion, I'm afraid to do a podcast. I'm doing it anyway. My guest today is my good friend Abigail Washington, who's been persisting through fear since she was 16 years old when she became pregnant. There's a lot of judgment in our society about teenage pregnancy and a lot of misconceptions about the life a teen mother will ultimately lead. Abigail reminds us that we are the author of our own story. She not only faced the fear of becoming a young mother, but has continuously pushed herself outside of her comfort zone to build the career and life that she desired. I want to welcome my first guest to Bodacious Tenacity, Abigail Washington. I'm so thrilled to have you here. Thank you for joining us, Abigail.
And thank you for having me. I'm
Oh,
really excited about this experience.
well, I'm really honored that you're my first guest. So I first want to tell the listeners a little bit about you and why you're here. I wanted to talk to you about your experience of becoming pregnant at 16 and becoming a mother at 17, which I didn't become a mother till I was 35 and I could barely handle it. So I imagine it must have been pretty scary at 17. Before we get into that, the meat of the story, I just wanted to ask you about your childhood and where you grew up, what kind of a childhood you had, and what you did as a child.
So I grew up in a small town in Oklahoma, a predominantly African American community, a population of 350.
And I know also you told me earlier that you helped take care of your siblings, right?
Yes, so I have 8 sisters and brothers, and we're
Oh,
all a year apart, no twins. So my mom had 8 kids in
oh my
eight
God.
years. I'm the second oldest, but I happen to be the mother hen. And how that
Mm,
fell on me, I have no idea.
mm,
But I help my siblings with the homework, I help with dinner, I help with chores.
mm.
So early on, I assumed a big role.
Wow. And so that must have kept you really busy. Did you also have a part-time job when you were in high school?
So when I was in high school, yes, I had a part-time job at the burger joint, a burger joint.
Okay. Okay. But you were telling me earlier that between caring for your siblings and working at the burger joint, you did not have a lot of time left for yourself. Is that right?
That is correct. I built this life around working and helping other people. I did
Mm,
not spend a
mm,
lot of time with myself. I did not take the time to relax and just to enjoy my life.
mm. But church was and is a big part of your life too, right?
So, church was, it's been the foundation of my life. It's
Mm,
what shaped me and molded me into the person that I am now.
mm. And so as you were growing up, uh, Um, what did you learn in your childhood about dating or sex or parenting or any of those subjects?
So, growing up, I learned nothing about dating. I learned nothing about sex other than it was wrong. No
Hmm.
sex before marriage. That's what you would hear the preacher speak about. And so that's basically it. No one ever like had the conversation with me about, if you have sex, this is what's going to happen. You could possibly get pregnant. Let's do sex education. That was not really a part of our community. It
Okay.
was understood that it was wrong.
Was it something that you felt like you could ask your parents about or any adults in your life to learn about
No,
it?
no, that
Mm.
wasn't even a question.
Okay.
It
Okay.
wasn't even a thought in my mind to ask because I felt like that's something that we didn't talk about personally. And so it
Mm-hmm.
was just off limits.
Okay. And so tell me a little bit about the boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So tell
Yes.
me about that. Tell me about, when you met and how it felt and um did your parents know? What did you do when you went out? Was he your steady boyfriend? What was the situation?
So to be honest, it was all a blur because I was dating him, but my parents didn't know about it. So it was just
Mm.
something that I was sneaking around to do. So
Hmm.
because we wasn't allowed to date, we wasn't allowed to go on dates, we wasn't allowed to have guys come to the house. So that was totally off limits. So I would say he was my boyfriend, but without my parents' knowledge.
Okay. So did you have to sneak out when you went on dates with him?
Yes, I had to sneak out. I would tell my parents, like, I'm going to visit a friend or we're going to meet at the mall. And then I would actually meet up with him sometimes.
Okay. You found yourself pregnant at 16. So I'm guessing that since you didn't have any kind of sex ed, you didn't know anything about contraception or anything like that, right?
Right. So
Go ahead.
I remember being at a state track meet, and of course, we stayed at the hotel for a couple of days. And I just gotten out of the shower, and I was just looking at my body, and I noticed something different about my breast, and I thought
Mm-hmm.
they felt heavy and just a little big, you know. And
Hmm.
in my mind, at that very moment, without doing a pregnancy test, without talking to anyone, I knew that I was pregnant.
That really surprises me, given how little education you had. So how did you know that you were pregnant?
I can't explain how I just
Mm.
knew.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had the conversation. Of course, I immediately became nervous and overwhelmed and flooded with these emotions because I have to talk to my parents that don't believe in sex before marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember going home to talk to my mom about, I told her that I thought I was pregnant and
Mm-hmm.
to please not tell my dad because
Mm.
he was a little more strict than my mother. So,
Okay.
those are things that you absolutely do not bring to him. I mean, number one, I'm not supposed to be dating. I'm not supposed to have a boyfriend. And so why am I pregnant? And so then you have
Mm-hmm.
to explain that. And then you have to explain that to your parents and then have to live in a community where people don't believe in sex before marriage. And not only that, I'm 16.
Yeah. That must have been incredibly scary to go and tell your mom.
It was scary to tell my mom, but my mom was a little more understanding.
She was. Okay. Do you remember what she said to you?
I don't, it's all a blur. I know that for sure she supported me through the process.
Mm.
That I do know.
Okay, that's important.
Yeah.
And what about the boy? Did you tell the boy?
Yes. And I don't know his reaction. I mean, we were both 16. So
Yeah, yeah,
what could he
yeah.
possibly say? What can I say? You're just a kid. You're
Mm.
not emotionally developed. You're not developed. These are things that, it's too much for a kid to even process
Yeah,
being
definitely.
pregnant at 16. So it's something that you can't really, you don't understand everything that happened around that situation because it's
Hmm.
traumatizing.
Hmm. I can imagine. I mean, I say I can imagine. I kind of can't because it's so overwhelming, and I was, such a mess at 16, like most 16-year-olds are. And you told me before that your dad was not as understanding as your mom, right? When
Correct.
you told
Yeah.
him, yeah,
He
yeah,
was beyond upset about it. Yeah. And we fought all the time through my pregnancy.
that must have been really hard too, and
It was extra, it made
scary.
it magnified the stress, and it magnified the anxiety when you're pregnant at a young age and you don't have support from one of the
Mm-hmm.
parents. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I
Yeah.
understand him being upset. Like, this is my daughter. She's young. She's a teenager. We have to think about because sometimes when you're in a certain environment, you worry about what other people think. So then you're
Mm-hmm.
flooded up, you're worried about what people are saying in the community about your 16-year-old daughter. So I can kind of get it, but it caused me a lot of trauma. And it caused an extreme amount of trauma, all the way to the point that some of this I don't remember. I can't recall certain periods of my life.
Yeah, that is absolutely a trauma response. And I really appreciate that you're talking with me about it today. I think it's really going to help a lot of people. And I hope it's somewhat cathartic for you as well in some small way. Um, Tell me, did you ever talk to your mom or dad about putting the baby up for adoption or what would happen during your pregnancy? Like, what were those discussions like?
So there was no discussion about abortion, about adoption. It just wasn't an option. And it was understood that that's never an option. You don't
Mm,
have an
mm.
abortion. You don't put a baby up, your baby up for adoption. So I settled in my spirit earlier on that I was going to have this baby, and I knew that.
You did. Okay. Was it really early on? Like almost immediate?
Yes, immediately.
Oh,
Like, I know I'm pregnant. I'm going to have a baby. There's no
wow.
other thought.
Oh my
There's no
gosh.
other option. Yeah.
And so what about school? What did you do about school?
So I continued high school, and staying home was not an option. Going to an alternative school was not an option. Isolating yourself was not an option. So I continued to work and go to school. And
Mm-hmm.
I've always had this level of a level of confidence. And
Mm.
so I dressed very nice. I kept myself up. I bought nice things for myself. So throughout my pregnancy, I always looked nice and dressed nice and had confidence.
Wow. That I don't even know the word for that. I was going to say courage, but it's more than courage. It's just you have such a dignity about you now. So I can imagine that it originated back then, that you've had it all this time. But was that a conscious effort? Because I know you've told me that you were not treated very well in the community, not treated very well in high school. So I'd like to hear about that. And I also want to know, was that a conscious effort to try to sort of counteract that?
So I don't know if I wasn't treated well in the community. Maybe I was so young and there was just some judgment. Not that
Yeah,
people
that's
were
what I
mean
meant.
to me, yes.
Oh,
So you
okay.
you
Go
can
ahead.
feel when you're young, you can feel the judgment from other people, because that's one of the things that people judge teenagers on is,
Mm,
teen
hmm.
pregnancy. It's
Yeah,
like
of
something
course.
that just shouldn't happen, and you shouldn't be
Hmm.
pregnant at 16. And so I think most of it was my own insecurities about it and how I
Mm,
really thought that people felt about me. You know that you're different. You know that you are young and you're pregnant, and you just stand out in a way it's uncomfortable, and there is
yeah.
no way around it, and there is no way to escape it. Like, I continue with school, I continue work, I had to go to church. So my parents didn't let me, just because I was 16 and pregnant, that I can just stay at home and
Mm-hmm.
rest. I had to continue my normal routine that I've always done.
Does that include your part-time job?
That included my part-time job. And so
Wow.
for the part-time job, I think that was mostly me that I wanted to continue to work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Why did you want to continue to work?
I think there's always been something built inside of me to just make a better life for myself, or to make my own money. It's kind of hard to say at that age. I can only sometimes just speculate, how I was feeling and what I'm thinking, because again, at 16 and you're working, I really don't know why I wanted to work. All I know is I wanted nice things, and all I know
Mm-hmm.
is I didn't want to be the person that I never wanted to be defeated.
Mm. Okay, because I was going to ask you, I know you say that you didn't have a choice in the matter, right? It was never an option to do anything other than to have the baby, but I'm sure that it was still really scary for you. So, I know you're a very determined person, but where did you get the strength at 16? How did you do that? How did you go to school every day, face your peers, go to church, go to work, mentally and physically, because it's exhausting to be pregnant too.
I don't know where that came from. That was just something, it's just something deep down inside of me.
Interesting. Okay. Um, well, there is something very, very special about you, Abigail, and there's something deep down. You have such a determination, which is one of the things I love about you. Um, so tell me um, about the birth.
All I remember is I was mad at my dad again. I was 9 months
Hmm.
pregnant. I was upset with him.
Hmm.
And I told my oldest sister, Deborah, I'm going to have this baby. And I said, let's do some jumping jacks and running in place, because I'm tired of my dad. I want to deliver this baby so that he can just leave me alone. And so we did like maybe 50 running in place and jumping jacks. And 3 hours later, I was in labor.
Oh my God. So what about, so then go ahead, tell me what happened after when you went into labor.
So when I went into labor, my mom's driving me to the hospital, and I'm
Hmm.
in this strange place. Like, I barely know where the baby's coming from. Like, how am I going to have this baby? That was another experience that was hard, because to be 17 when I delivered, and to have a vaginal birth
Wow.
in a world that you don't know anything about it. I didn't watch any videos. I didn't hear of anybody's experiences about having a baby. So again, that was new. And then after I had my baby, my mom was very, very supportive, and so was my father. So I was still living at home with my parents. So all of my siblings helped with my daughter, Shay. And so
Yay.
we would take turns feeding her, and we would take turns changing her. We would take turns waking up in the middle of the night to give her bottles. So they all helped me with her.
I want to ask you for the birth, did you get any kind of painkiller?
Did I get painkiller? I think so. I don't know.
Well, did it feel like your body was being ripped in two?
Yes.
Okay, maybe you didn't get painkiller. I got painkiller that didn't work. I don't want to make light of the postpartum because I know that you've talked to me about that before. And I think at that time, what year was that again when you
This
had
was
Shay?
1993.
Right. So people still were not really talking about postpartum in
No,
the
I never heard of
mainstream.
it. I didn't know what postpartum was at the time. I've only learned a few years ago that I was going through postpartum. And that period in my
Wow.
life, I vividly remember it because it was so hard. And at times I
Mm.
thought I was going to lose my mind, many days. And there
How
was
did you
many
get through
days,
that?
you know, my parents, my mom would just pray over me and she would just calm me because that's all we knew was prayer. And
Mhm.
she would talk to
Mhm.
me and calm me down and reassure me that everything was going to be okay. And I just, at times, I would have weird thoughts like, do, am I going to keep the baby? Is something going to happen to her? It's just
Mhm.
weird emotions when you go through postpartum. And it's really a feeling that you can't explain. It's really, really hard. And I can't imagine people going through postpartum. But now, there are better resources for postpartum. You can read about it, you can have a stronger family support.
Right.
But in the 90s, again, that was not something that people talked about. So you just kind of suffered in silence, if you will.
Yeah, and it must have been doubly bad because you didn't know what it was, right? You
Had
didn't have a
no
name
idea.
for it.
No. All I know
Yeah.
is I was going to lose my mind.
How long did that go on?
That probably went on for maybe 3 months, at least 3 months. But
Okay.
right after the baby, it was really severe.
Wow. So this part of your story really surprises me. After Shay was born, how long before you went back to school?
I think I went back a month later.
A month later. Okay.
Yes.
That's unbelievable. Okay.
hmm
So tell me, what was that like walking down the hallway now that you're a mom?
It was different because my life had changed.
Mm. How is it
And
different?
it's different because you are now a young student with a baby and with a responsibility. And everybody
Mm-hmm.
knows that you have a new baby.
Mm.
And at times it felt overwhelming, but really that didn't stop me.
How did you keep up with your schoolwork while taking care of Shay?
Wow, I just did it.
Did
I
you
kept up
still
with
go
my
to
school.
work at the burger
I
joint too?
Yes, I continued to work. I went back to school, I went back to work, and I kept up with my schoolwork and graduated high school.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So after you graduated high school, then what did you do? Did you still live with your parents with Shay?
So I lived with my parents for a year and I moved in with my grandmother. She was a block away from my parents. So it
Mm.
was like I was just trying to escape my dad, if you will, because
Yeah,
him and
yeah.
I just
Okay.
continued to fight at times. You know what? It was like I had a secure place for her. It was actually like
Mm.
a good feeling.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, because I could work, I could still live my life. I still had the support of my parents. And yeah, it was actually great.
Did Shay's father play any role in her life?
No,
That's unfortunate.
yeah,
That's
no,
unfortunate.
he was truly not around.
Mm.
So you
Okay.
have that, and you're young. You don't have the support of a boyfriend or ex or whatever. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
it makes it stressful.
Yeah, I would say, to say the least, it makes it stressful. It must have been painful, I would think. How did it change you after Shay was born?
After Shay was born, like you have to grow up. You have
Hmm.
this responsibility for the rest of your life, so get it together.
It sounds like you were kind of together before she was born. You were holding down a job, you were going to school, you were taking care of your siblings. Were there things emotionally that you felt like you had to give up or that you had to change about yourself once you were a mother?
No, not really. I think the biggest thing is in your mind, you have to settle on that this is your responsibility and you have
Mm.
this for the rest of your life.
Hmm.
but I didn't
Hmm.
really have to give up anything, but I had to come to the conclusion that this is my life
Right, right. And accept it.
and accept it. Yes.
Was that hard?
I don't think so. Hindsight is when you're in it, yes, but now looking back on it, probably not so much.
Okay. Um, I want to ask you about your trajectory after you got out of high school and your career. So you were working at the burger joint, and what did you do after that? Because I know you don't work at a burger joint anymore. So tell me the story of the steps that you took to get
So
out of
after
working at burger joints.
I started thinking, I want to make a better life for myself. I want to grow. I don't always want to work here. And so what I
Hmm.
did was I got a job at the hospital and I started in food service and I was just doing the dishes. I started out washing the pots and pans and I thought, "Oh, this is not enough. I need to go to the next step." So
Hmm.
then I started making the salads for the salad bar. And I was like, "Oh, this is not enough. I got to go to the next level." Then I started working on the grill, flipping the burgers at the grill. And I thought,
Hmm.
there's more. I've always thought that there's more and there's a better life and there's room to improve and grow.
Hmm.
That's always been my mentality. And so I got a job as the cashier. Working as a cashier, of course, you're going to meet all the people in the hospital because
Hmm.
everybody has to come for lunch. So you're going to meet the doctors,
Hmm.
you're going to meet the CEO, you're going to meet the
Yeah.
anesthesiologist, you're going to meet the nurse, you're going to meet the other housekeepers. You're just going to
Hmm.
meet a range of people in the hospital. So actually, I was in the perfect spot. And so I looked at the job postings that was available, the jobs that was online, and I noticed that they had a file clerk in the billing department. And I personally talked to the manager of the billing department when he came through my line to pay for his food one day.
Hmm.
And he said, you have to be able to type 60 words a minute. And I couldn't even type 2 words a minute. Like, how am I going to type 60 words a minute? So I started taking class. No, I started practicing at the library. Like on my days off, I would go to the library and
Hmm.
I would practice typing. And I passed the typing test and I applied for the job and I got accepted. So I was the mail clerk for the billing department. Woohoo! Like, wow, I'm moving up, right? So in the billing department, they had another position open and it was the mail clerk. So I was the file clerk, then the mail clerk. So I did that for a while. That wasn't enough. So I became the posting clerk. And I thought, this is still not enough. Like I want to continue to grow. And this was over a 4-year period. So then
Okay.
I became a biller where I built the claims. So I was a Blue Cross
Hmm.
and Blue Shield representative. So then our billing office was outsourced. I had the option to work for the outsourced company or
Oh,
to take a job in the hospital. I wanted to take a job in the hospital. Before I could apply for a job within the hospital because there was jobs available, the manager of radiology came to me and he said, "There's a job opening in radiology and I want to hire you for it, but you can't tell anybody that I was here." And I thought, whoa, who does that? So
wait,
I,
I need to stop you. How did he know you? What made him come to you and offer you that job?
he heard about me through other people. I started to to get a name at the hospital as a good person, if you will, and a
Hmm.
person that was like just well liked. I
And
started building,
reliable.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
very reliable.
And
Hmm.
so I took a position in radiology as a scheduler. And after that, I would schedule the appointments for the techs, for the mammographers,
Mm-hmm.
for the CT, MRI. And I thought, why am I just scheduling the exams for them? I can do this. I can be the tech. And so
What made you think that?
I feel like if they can do it, I can do it. I thought their job was so big and so important. And I was just
Mm-hmm.
fascinated by all of that. And
Mm.
so there was a guy that came, like the guy that hired me on for radiology, he actually quit. And another guy came from Texas. And when he met me, he said, Abigail, I want you to make a better life for you and your daughter, for
Mm.
you and your children. He said, I see so much potential in you, and I want to make this happen for you. So he encouraged me to go back to school to be a technologist. And the program was from 8 to 5 to be a technologist. And so,
Mm-hmm.
to make a really, really long story short, I had to take an anatomy class for 2 hours every day. He allowed me to leave, take the class, and then come back for a semester. So I
Mm.
finished, I passed the anatomy class. So now I'm accepted into the radiology program. It was scary because I didn't have much educational background. So I have to go back to school. And at this particular time, I'm now 31.
Yeah, so I want to stop the story of your career for a second and go back a little bit because you mentioned that he wanted you to make a better life for your children. So at this point, were you married?
Yes, I was
With
married and I had two more children,
Okay, so what are their names?
Tiana and Daniel.
So you had three children now, and you were married, and you passed the anatomy class, and now you were going to radiology school. And
Yeah,
so you were saying how that scared you.
it's so frightening when you don't have like a deep educational background. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, between in my 20s, I took classes like here and there. I would
Mm-hmm.
take an English class and take a science class, but I didn't have an educational college background. So at 30, I'm starting all over again. I'm working, I have three kids. My husband is God knows where because he was busy running around and getting into so many other things,
Mm-hmm.
cheating. I know we probably shouldn't be talking about this because that's not the point of this story, but
That's okay. It's all part of the story,
it
Abigail.
is
So
part of the story.
that's another stressor, right?
It's another stressor.
That's
So
a
I
lot.
I get accepted into the program, but the program is Monday through Friday during work hours. So what am I going to do? I have to work. I have to take care of my children.
Mm-hmm.
So the manager created a job for me that wasn't there. He created a job for me to
Wow.
work 4 to 10 Monday through Friday. And that was how I got through the radiology program for the next 2 years.
So for 2 years, you were getting up, getting your children off to school. Were they school
Yes,
age at this point?
yes, they were school age at the time.
Going to work,
Yes,
and then coming home at 10
yes.
to do homework. And were your kids in bed by then? That's your grandmother helping you, your parents helping
No,
you?
by
How
then
did you manage to do that?
I was living on my own and I was managing my house.
Mm-hmm.
And so how I managed to do that, I really don't know. But I did. We woke up early in the morning. I would prepare them for school and I would take them to school because I didn't get to spend much time with my kids. But I thought if I can take them to school, then that gives me more time to spend with them. And then I would
Mm-hmm.
go to school. And then
Mm-hmm.
right after school, sometimes I change my clothes in my car from my school um, uniform to my
Mm-hmm.
work uniform. I can remember one day I was on my way to work and the school was about 20 minutes from my job. And at the
Mm-hmm.
stoplight, I was taking off my shirt in the car at the stoplight, putting on my work uniform to get to work. And
Wow.
and sometimes
Wow.
my kids would be awake and sometimes they would be asleep. And
Hmm.
sometimes it was sad because when you don't get to spend as much time with your kids. Yeah.
Yeah, that's hard. That's hard.
Yeah.
They must have been really proud of you, though. I'm not sure
They
if they
were
could express
s-
it at that age, but
yeah, they were very, very uh proud of me. I feel like I made an impact on their lives. Yeah.
I'm sure you made a huge impact on their lives. So, then you finished the radiology school, and then did you say earlier you did not have a job after that?
So after radiology program, yes, I had a job
Hmm.
right away.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So what was the job that you had at the hospital?
So I was a X-ray tech.
So you were doing X-rays and in the emergency room, is that correct?
Yeah, in the emergency room and different departments in the hospital,
Uh,
like rehab,
okay.
was going to surgery to take images for the doctor. So at this point, I'm thinking, what's next?
Yeah, I know you are.
Yeah. So what's next? So, I'm not satisfied. This is not enough.
Yeah.
Like, there's room for me
Hmm.
to grow and to improve. And I thought, the market is saturated. It's harder to find jobs. Of course, the market is no longer saturated now, but at that time it was like 10 years ago, the market was extremely saturated. COVID changed things. So I wanted to do what was next. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to take the training for mammography. And so at this time, it's just me and my kids, and I have no extra money,
Hmm. You were
but I need
divorced
to.
by this time?
I wasn't divorced, but I was separated.
Okay. And what drew you to mammography?
What drew me to mammography is I have always known that I wanted to help women and I wanted to be
Hmm.
in women's health. I
Hmm.
at first thought I was going to be a nurse,
Mm.
but I've always had um, this something in me that wanted to be helpful and to help other people on the
Hmm.
journey.
Mm. So, did you have to move to do that?
I
To
did
do
not
the
have to.
mammography course?
I did not have to move, and that's because I took a 1 week course in the city, and then I
Hmm.
had to do 250 clinical hours. And most
Okay.
of those clinical hours was done on my own time because by this time I was working 16 hours on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. So during the week, I would do clinical hours to do all the
Mm.
classes, the clinicals for mammography. And when I finished that, it took me about a year. Then I set for the test for mammography.
Uh, was that the last step, becoming a mammographer before you started traveling?
Yes, yes, it
It
was the
was.
last
Okay.
step. So I was working as a mammographer maybe for 4 years. And at this point in my life, I felt stuck and I felt trapped and I felt like there's more to do in life. And people used to always say to me, think outside the box. Well, I'm
Mm.
in the box. And when you're in
Mm.
the box and you have no exposure to the world, you can tell a person all day long, think outside the box, think outside the box. You can't think outside the box when you're in the box. You have to be outside the box to think outside the box. And I thought, how do I think? I'm stuck. And so many times I kept just saying, I feel trapped. I feel trapped. And finally, I decided that I would explore traveling as a mammographer.
I want to ask you, what made you think of traveling? Is this something that you know about? Did you know other medical care workers, healthcare workers that traveled? Where did that idea come from?
I have no idea,
Okay.
but when I found out about it, I started to research it. So after I started researching and I was in contact with some recruiters, by this time my youngest is 17, and they offered me a position. So I applied, And they were, so what they do is give you a list of jobs that's available, Connecticut, New Hampshire, New Jersey, California. And so you can say, okay, submit me for this particular position in Texas or wherever.
Mm-hmm.
And so it came down to I was going to have to make a decision about if I was going to apply for a position in a different state. And then I
Mm-hmm.
thought about it. My daughter is just 17, although she thinks she's grown, but she's not. And so
Right.
I put that on hold for 2 years because I wanted to see her through high school and another year so that she would have a little more stability. So when
Mm-hmm.
she was
Mm-hmm.
19, I applied for a position in Connecticut at Yale Hospital in Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke with the manager and she hired me for the position and I accepted the position. Well, now I got to think about by this time, I've never traveled to the East Coast in my lifetime. I have never traveled alone except for with my parents or with my kids. I've never lived away from my hometown
Wow. Wow.
for 47 years. Oh, I'm telling my age, my God. Okay. And so I'm accepted for this position, and it's time for me to make a move.
Mm.
And
Mm.
I am afraid. And I've never been so afraid in my lifetime to,
Really? Was it scarier than having Shay?
it was scarier than having Shay. It
Wow.
was scarier than any experience that I ever had. When you think
Wow.
about you've settled in a place for 30 years, you have your
Mm-hmm.
home, you have your kids, you have your dog, you have your community, you have your
Mm-hmm.
family, you have your cousins, you have all of your friends.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you just uproot yourself and go to another place. That's scary because then I'm treading on new territory and I'm treading in a place that I've never been before.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the week before I was supposed to leave, I was just, my body was in shock with fear. I was so afraid. I thought about so many things. I have to fly. I have to pack up my things. I have to leave my home. What is it going to be
Mm.
like when I get there? It's a new environment, it's new people. And I remember one night I was praying and I was praying. I was awake all night long praying because I was so afraid. And I remember just laying on my back, I was praying, and just a spirit of peace came into my room, my
Mm-hmm.
bedroom, and just overshadowed me. And the spirit of peace says to me, everything is going to be okay.
So, had you gone to Connecticut to visit and see where you would be working before you took the job?
No, I did not. I had no idea. In Connecticut, I was going to be working at five different locations.
Oh, wow.
So I
Were they
worked at
all in New
Yale
Haven?
Hospital. They were all a
Mm-hmm.
part of Yale. Like I worked the mobile unit, I
Okay.
worked at the main hospital, and then I worked at three more offsite clinics for them. So
Wow.
not only was
So,
I going to be moving to a new place, I was going to be working at different sites for the hospital.
right. And I know you said that your town was predominantly African American when you lived there. Had you
Yes.
lived in a place that was more mixed race, that had more diversity
No, no
before? So,
diversity. No.
first of all, how did you get to New Haven? Like, how did you overcome that fear and get on the plane um, and make that move?
I remember trying to back out of this, the contract in New Haven, and I called one of my friends. I called my friend Brandy, and I said, "Yeah, I'm not going to be able to go to New Haven because I made a lot of excuses."
Hmm.
And she says to me, "You're going." And I said, well, this came up and this happened. And she said, do you think I've been praying for you for days for you to back out of this? You are going. So she encouraged me to continue. But when I got there,
Mm.
I didn't have a place to stay. I was going to live in a hotel for a couple of days. And when I arrived, I I made contact with someone on this housing site and I moved in with her. So just think about it. I'm moving to a new place. I have a new job and I'm moving in with a stranger.
You're a glutton for overcoming fear, Abigail.
Yeah.
Talk about persistence through fear. You're the poster child. You're the perfect first guest. Um, and I know you told me previously that you timed it with your birthday, right? Did you start the job on your birthday or the day before your birthday?
I started the job on my birthday
Wow.
because I
Okay.
wanted it to be like a significant milestone in my life.
And what was it like your first day? What was it like being in a whole new town, a whole new environment, a more diverse environment? What was
It
that
was
like?
scary. It's it's completely like you can't wrap your mind around all of a sudden you wake up one day and you're alone, so to speak. You're by yourself. You have no family
Hmm.
support. Like you have no one with you. You have no friends. You have no family. You're just in a strange place, just all alone.
Was it a different kind of feeling, a different kind of fear than when you had Shay? Or did anything from that experience help you in this experience of
None of
moving
that
to
experience
Connecticut?
helped me. No, because with Shay, I'm afraid and I'm a new mom and I'm young and I'm so scared, but I still have support. I have the support of
Right.
the community. I have, my parents are around, my sisters are around, my cousins live close by. So I
Mm-hmm.
do have a level of comfort and support.
Mm. Okay. And so how long did it take for you to feel comfortable in New Haven in your new position?
Actually, I never got comfortable. I
You
did the
didn't?
job. Okay, let's say, okay, this is hard to explain because I was comfortable in the job. I think I'm just trying to say I still had that loneliness, the
Sure.
loneliness of being away from my family. But I feel like I acclimated to the environment pretty quickly. But still, at that, I was afraid because I didn't have a car, so I had to take public transportation. I had never taken public transportation a day in my life. And I'm sitting on the bus with these strange people, like, whoa.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
imagine that's quite a shocker if you've never taken public transportation. Sometimes it's fine, and sometimes it can be a little bit colorful, a little bit of an experience, right? To be on public transportation.
That's Jamie, that's a good way to put it.
So, um, what's intriguing to me, though, and I think what listeners will be really interested to know is that um, that was not your last experience with traveling, right? So,
No, there was
what happened after New Haven?
so after New Haven, I went back home for maybe 6 weeks.
Hmm.
And after that, I was ready to go for another assignment. And I went to Chicago. So I
Hmm.
applied for a position in Chicago, and everybody was telling me, oh my gosh, don't go to Chicago. The crime rate is high.
Mm.
There's a lot of things going on in Chicago, but they never told
Hmm.
me about the beauty of Chicago. And so I talked to my sister, and I remember telling her, I'm so afraid. Like, I'm afraid of what's going to happen to me in Chicago. Like, the crime rate is high. And I come from an environment where I'm like a little friendly and bubbly, and everybody don't have the same vibe when you go to different
Right.
places. And
Right.
so I told her that I was just gonna just like be standoffish and just not be rude, but just like
A little bit of
treat
an
people
armor.
Yes. And
Yeah.
she said,
Okay.
"No, Abby, be yourself." And she said that there are more good people in this world than bad people. And
Hmm.
when she told me that, it made me feel, I put my focus on there's good people in this world. And she said, and everything is going to be okay. So I
Hmm.
remember going to Chicago, same scenario. I was looking for housing and I couldn't find anything. The day before I was scheduled to land in Chicago, I talked to someone that, we made arrangements for me to live with her. And so I get there and we meet each other for the first time. Again, I'm in another
Another
strange place,
stranger. Yeah.
another stranger, another strange place, a new job.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
remember getting off the bus in Chicago and thinking, wow, what a beautiful place. And I thought, this is an experience that I would never be able to describe to anyone. It was so beautiful and so vibrant in downtown Chicago. But I had a lot of obstacles to overcome there as well. Public
Hmm.
transportation, walking, catching Uber, just getting comfortable with the new people and the workflow. And so
Hmm.
after that, I went back home and I stayed home for maybe 5 weeks. And I was offered a position in New Hampshire. And as a kid, I used to dream about, I would look at the map and I always thought, I want to go to New York. How would I ever get there? And then I thought, if I can't get to New York, I can't even fathom being in New Hampshire.
Because it was
And
so
so
much farther north.
it was so much further north. And I thought, how would I ever get there? And now
Hmm.
I have this opportunity to be in a place that I've never thought in my lifetime that I would be. And so I go to New Hampshire, and of course, it's a whole nother experience because now I'm
Hmm.
dealing with, I'm going to be around predominantly, Caucasians.
Just gonna say that.
I'm an
Yeah.
African American woman, and I'm put in a whole nother culture. And for
Yeah.
me, that was scary because I didn't know how I was going to fit in. And that was
Hmm.
one of the most scarier parts of it because, I wanted to be safe. And sometimes you hear things about people's behavior and their actions.
Hmm.
But I
Hmm.
feel like you have to have your own experience, and every experience is not the same. And I'm so glad that
Hmm.
I didn't let that affect me. Also, I looked up the population. I'm like, oh my gosh, just like 3% of African Americans. Like, I'm just like around all these white people. Like, what am I going to do? How am I going to fit in? Yeah.
Well, um, that brings us to another story of your fear, and that was of me
Yes. Yes.
when we first became friends. So I do want to bring that up because I think it's kind of a humorous story, and it's another example of you persisting through fear, right? Because when
Right.
when we first met,
Right.
so I'll tell listeners how we first met, and then you can tell your version. My daughter was a bartender at a very popular place in town, and I used to often go and sit there at the bar by myself, listening to a book or a podcast and having my dinner so I could visit my daughter. And I was doing that one night, and I usually never took my earbuds out or talked to anybody. And up comes this lovely woman next to me at the bar getting takeout, and I do not know what propelled me, but for some reason, I took my earbuds out and we started talking. I don't remember what we talked about, but I just remember it was enough that when you paid and were going to leave with your food, that I said, let's exchange numbers, because I really wanted to see you again and get to know you. And then we were texting for a few days. It was around Christmas time. Then I had the feeling, maybe she's here alone at Christmas because she's traveling and maybe it's too far to go home. So I remember texting you that and asking, um, I don't want you to think that I'm trying to convert you or anything, but would you like to go to an Episcopal church with me on Christmas Eve? And then we can do something afterwards. And to my great surprise, you said yes. And it was only later that I learned what was going on in your head during this time as well. So I would love for you to talk about that fear from
Okay,
your
so
perspective.
from my perspective and meeting you, Jamie, I do remember us sitting at the bar, and I don't remember what we were talking about, but one thing I remember about you is that you just having an easy vibe and
Mm.
truly and genuinely being interested in me. And I'm thinking, why is she interested in me? I'm a black woman here in a white town, and I'm in this bar. I already feel awkward because I'm the only black here. So I thought, what is her motive? As she told me that she was a journalist and told me about some of her work and some of the things that she had done, and I thought, oh, she's a spy.
Oh,
You
Abigail.
just she is just here to like find out all this information about me. And this is in my head. I mean, and this is true. And this is how we think sometimes when we don't know.
Hmm.
Like she wants to find
Hmm.
out this information about me and she's going to use it against me. But, I kept pressing through and we kept spending time together. And the more we spent time together, I just became comfortable. And I realized that there was no motive behind any of it except to get to know me as a person. And honestly, I was very fearful. And so it is through that fear that I pressed through that we're here today doing your first podcast. And
Yeah.
I'm so grateful.
I'm so grateful too, because I just remember getting to know you, and first of all, the fact that you were a traveler, I thought that's pretty brave. That's a hard life because I did go overseas. I've moved around a lot, but um after the first move I was with my family, so I wasn't alone. And so I remember thinking, wow, that's pretty cool, coming to an all white town as a black woman coming from the South, um into this lily white town, not just white, but
Yes.
like absolutely no diversity at all, Abigail. I just thought that was really brave. I really admired that. And then once I learned about Shay and your story, I just really admired your bravery. And it was actually after one of our phone calls here recently, last winter, that when you talked about your story again, and I started thinking about your bravery, and then the next day my sister was talking about my bravery, and I kind of put those two things together and thought, wow, we have such incredibly different stories, we have such incredibly different backgrounds, and we both have done things that scared us. And that was the germ of the idea for Bodacious Tenacity. So it's very, very fitting that you're the first guest. I am so excited to have you as the first guest.
And I'm truly
um
grateful.
Oh, thank you. I remember uh you really opening my eyes to be more curious, because I remember once we were walking around Ockham Pond and we were looking at a flower and I didn't know what it was, and you pulled out your iPhone and took a picture and said, "Oh, we can look that up right now." Which, first of all, I didn't know I could do that with an iPhone, but it was just the idea that everything that we were looking at on those walks that you wanted to know about, you wanted to take pictures of, or we would discuss, or and I think that curiosity is been a big driving force in your life. And I'm guessing, I don't want to put words in your mouth, that maybe that's part of what's helped you overcome your fear of doing certain
Mm.
things. You have such a thirst for knowledge, and um, such a deep curiosity of everything. So that actually brings me to the next question, which was going to be the last question. And that is there anything currently that you would like to do or need to do that you're afraid to do?
You know, I reflect back on, you know, the fears of being a teenage mom, the fears of going back to school, the fears of
Mm.
being um, married and separated and then divorced and then losing a child. And when I think about all those fears and all those things that I have overcome, I don't know that there's anything at this moment that I'm truly afraid of, because I feel like I've tackled like so many of the hard things
Mm.
and in my life. And what could be harder? I'm not saying I'm fearless, because I'm not fearless, but I think I've handled a lot of the hard things.
You have, and we didn't talk about Daniel's passing this time. I hope you'll come back another time and talk about that,
I'll
because I
be
know
glad
getting through
to.
that,
Hmm.
I I think that could help a lot of people dealing with grief as well. But
Yes.
it's heartening to hear that you recognize that you've been through so much that it doesn't mean that you're fearless, but you know you can get through it. And I think that's what's really important, is knowing that even if we're afraid of things, that we can still get through it.
We can, that is true. Yes, I totally agree. I would just like to say also that I'm so proud of my daughter, Shay. We have overcome a lot together. She graduated from the University of, from OU in Oklahoma. So that was a significant milestone for us. And now she works as an assistant to the optometrist in Tulsa, where she lives. And of course, I lost my son, my late son, in 2017. And then I have my youngest, Daniel, and then I have my youngest daughter, Tiana. She's a critical care nurse in ICU in Oklahoma City. And so, through all of these challenges and through all of these times, if you continue to fight and you continue to be positive and you continue to be strong, you can get through these things and you can look on the other side of it all and say, wow. And when I look at my life and I think of my life, I don't think about a person that has accomplished a lot. It's only through you, Jamie, that you started pulling things out of me, because
Mhm.
these things have truly laid dormant in me, because at times I was truly in a survival mode. But over time, you have pulled these things out of me and brought them to the surface. And I'm truly thankful for that. And it is because of you that I can see myself in a better light. Yeah.
That's so nice to hear. I think you're seeing yourself in the true light now. You're
That's
seeing
right.
yourself the way that we see you and love you.
Mhm.
So, um, thank you. Thank you for letting us know what Shay and Tiana are doing now, because I know you're super proud of them. I'm sure they're super proud of you as well. And you've set such an amazing example for them. So, thank you. And I hope you'll come on again.
Yes. And thank you.
Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed the episode, please like and subscribe. You can follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. If you'd like to receive the Bodacious Tenacity newsletter, please subscribe via our socials or on our website, bodacioustenacity.com. Many thanks to my children, Ellen J., and to Hannah Verdon for their hard work. And thanks for your support. I'm Jamie Seaton. Have a bodacious day.